and that's where most of our content is going to be held. So we're going to go over to our styles, and you might notice in the HTML we have div ID wrapper. Now in cascading style sheets we can't just type in div ID wrapper and then put in the brackets. We can use some special symbols, and as you saw earlier on in the film, we can use a special symbol of a hashtag and a full stop. Hashtags are used when we apply an ID within a HTML setting, and then within a class setting we use the dot. So I'm going to add a hashtag in this situation here, and then I'm going to give the name of that ID, and we're going to type in wrapper. So I'm then going to put an enter there, and then I'm going to close the bracket, sorry, open the bracket and then close the bracket, so we're ready for our styles to be applied and attached. Here we're going to move inside and we're going to type in margin hyphen left, and then we're going to put our colon in there to apply what we want to happen to the margin left, and we're going to do auto, AUTO. So this is automatically going to check and put in a value inside of that margin that's on the left. So what we may find when we start applying these rules is it shifts it too much over to the left, so we need to make it so that it averages out on both sides. So we're going to go inside, put a new line after we've done our semicolon, and we're going to type in margin hyphen right, and then we're going to apply auto to that too. So that should in principle allow us, when we make our web pages larger and smaller, so if I show you on the window here, it should keep it nice and organized and keep it within that window. So now we're going to move on and we're going to add some more rules to our style sheets. If you want to save this and see what it looks like, we can save it, go on in here, refresh. It doesn't appear to have done too much, so I'll leave open our goal, our target. We're going to go back into our HTML inside our CSS, and we're going to add a new rule of background color, similar to how we did with the body. Now because this is an element that sits on top of the body, this should allow us to see the difference between the wrapper and the body. So let's add a color to this, and I want my wrapper to be white, as you can see here. So I can put in a hexadecimal color code. The hexadecimal color code for white is hashtag FFFFFF hashtag 000000, or we can simply type in the name of the color white. This is restricted to a few colors. You can put in cyan, magenta, red. There are a few other ones in there, but there's definitely not 16.5 million that you can put in there in terms of color names. It's not like you're going to the local hardware shop and you're asking for primrose red. You can't type that in. That's where your hexadecimal color codes are going to play the situation which we want them to do. So if I now save that and then we preview or update that, you now notice we have this white area inside the grey, starting to look a little bit better. Not quite where we're at, where we want to be with regards to that, but we're getting there, and we've only done a very small amount of cascading style sheets at this point in time. We're going to add a few more rules inside of this wrapper, and one of the rules we want to add, if we go into the preview here, you'll see that everything seems to be stuck to the edge of that container. We want to give it some padding. As we can see here, there's a bit of space between, and we can do that by, like we did up at the top in the body, we're going to add some padding, but this time we're going to set a value for it, And the value inside of this one is going to be 10 pixels. And pixels is represented as px in cascading style sheets. So I tend to find myself saving, going to the original file and refreshing and then seeing if it works. Sometimes you can find that you can apply lots of rules and lots of styles and you get so far in and then you check what you've done and it looks a mess, and then you're having to unpick bits and pieces as you go. It's probably a good way to try and do it as you go along, check, see if it works. Yep, I'm happy with that, and then you know you've got a point in which you can return. So here we've got that space now. It looks a little bit better, but we're still going to carry on. We're going to add some more styles because remember, we've got a bit of a journey to get to this point here. So I'm going to now add some border radius. Now this is one of my favorite tags, if you can have a favorite tag in cascading style sheets. And border radius deals with that little curve that we have on the edge of our wrapper box. And we do that by typing border radius, and you might notice that this doesn't actually pop up on Notepad++, and I don't know why. If you know why, put it in the comments down below. But yeah, if we put 10 pixels on there, that should give us a 10 pixel curve on all edges. So if I put px there and then save that, so if we look on the disk, make it go blue and refresh, you'll notice now we have a curve just here. Okay, and that makes it look a little bit, I feel, aesthetically pleasing. Doesn't look too blocky. We're still not there, we're still not achieved what we want to do. But we're going to add one more rule, I think, inside of this one, and we're going to add a bit of padding from our wrapper here to the very top of our web page browser window here. And the way that we can do that is by adding a margin. I'm going to add margin. And this time, instead of doing left and right like we did before, we're going to do hyphen. We're going to do top. And we're going to apply, I think, 20 pixels of padding at the top will probably be enough in this instance. So I'm going to put my semicolon there just to make sure it knows that I've finished that one. Save that. Come here, refresh. And you can see it's just pushed it down a little bit more for us so that we can see that we've got a bit of space between that. Slowly getting there. Slowly getting there. So that's the wrapper. I'm quite happy with that now, and I'm gonna go to the end of it, just put a bit of line spacing there, and I'm gonna move on to the next element or tag within inside our web page that I want to target. And I want to target our heading, heading 1. Now you might look and see, well, okay, well, we've got the wrapper there, that's got a hashtag. Body, that didn't have an ID, so we just called it straight away. If we're going to do that with the heading, do we need to do an ID for it or anything like that? And because we can target specific tags within the actual web page themselves, we can just type in h1. We don't need to put a dot in front of it. We don't need to put a hashtag in front of it. The only situation we'd do that is if we applied any IDs or classes inside the tag themselves. So I'm going to go in and put h1, and then I'm going to open the bracket, and then I'm going to close the bracket. As you saw earlier on in the video, I tend to try and do the open and close at the same time. It just makes it a little easier to know that I've done them rather than wonder if I have. You can indent as well, so we could take the chunk of text here and just indent it a little bit by selecting it all and pressing tab, and it can make it look a little bit better in terms of the code. When you're in class with me, you might hear me mentioning to you about Hadoukening your code. There's a little thing for you to go and research. There's a lovely image on Google about Hadoukening your code. For those Street Fighter fans amongst you, you'll probably know what I'm referring to. So I'm going to tab in here, and I'm going to apply, for my heading 1s, I want to apply a text alignment. So I want to make it so that it's in the middle. So I'm going to text hyphen align. I'm going to give that the value of center. Now that's it for this tag. I'm happy with that. So again, I'm just going to save that. It might look like I've done nothing here. It might be because I've not got a h1 in here. but we will add one later. So the next thing that we want to look at, and it's quite important for us to look at, is how our footer down here looks almost identical to everything else inside of the web page itself. We want to make that a bit different because when we go onto any websites, the footers are normally smaller. They are distinctively different to the main content within inside the web page. So let's go inside that and we'll apply some style to our footer. So I'm going to type it down here, and because again we can target the tag like we did with body, we know that down here if we scroll down you'll see that we've got our footer element. So let's target that. So I'm going to type in footer, no hashtag, and no dot, and I'm going to open the bracket and close the bracket, and I'm going to target what I want to happen to the text inside it. So I could put text align, and I want to get that to be centered. Again, just do a quick save, little preview. Yeah, I'm quite happy with that being center, but it looks the same as what we've got up here. So let's change the size of the font. Well, you probably guessed it already. The tag for this is font hyphen size, and then we're going to give it a value. Now be careful the values you apply for web pages. It's not as similar to that you might find in Word. You might want to think about your pixel measurement, whether you're using pixels. You can use pixels, you can use what's known as ems, or you could even use a percentage, but I'm just going to make it easy and simple for us here today, and I'm just going to apply a 10 pixel size to that and save, and let's just see if that works. Yeah, I'm quite happy with that. I don't want it to be too small that you don't see it, but I don't want it to be too big so that it blends in with what we got, and I'm quite happy with that.